There's a kind of pain that changes you quietly. Not physical pain, heart pain. The kind that sits in your chest late at night. The kind that makes you replay conversations and stare at your phone, wondering how someone who once cared so deeply could suddenly become distant. Maybe it was a relationship, maybe a friendship, maybe someone you truly believed would stay forever. And when they left, it felt like part of your future disappeared with them. That's the dangerous part about heartbreak. Sometimes you're not only grieving the person, you're grieving the future you imagined with them. The wedding you pictured, the memories you planned, the life you hoped would happen. And honestly, one of the hardest things to accept is this. Sometimes God allows heartbreak because He sees what you cannot see. That's difficult to hear, because when people leave, we immediately think rejection, abandonment, punishment. But what if some closed doors are actually protection? What if the relationship you were desperately trying to save would have slowly destroyed your peace, purpose, and future? And maybe right now you don't understand why certain people disappeared, why things fell apart, or why God stayed silent while your heart broke. But throughout the Bible, God repeatedly separated people from places, relationships, and situations that were not meant for their destiny. And painful as it is, sometimes separation is mercy. We often fall in love with potential, not reality. One of the biggest reasons heartbreak destroys people is because humans naturally become attached to potential, not reality. You meet someone, and immediately your mind starts building a future. You imagine forever, stability, happiness, healing, companionship. And slowly, you stop seeing the person clearly. You start seeing the version of them you hope they will become. That's dangerous, because sometimes we become emotionally attached to an illusion. Samson ignored warning signs with Delilah. Think about that carefully. The Bible repeatedly shows Delilah betraying Samson's trust, yet he kept returning. Why? Because emotion can blind wisdom. And honestly, many people today stay in relationships that constantly wound them because they are addicted to the hope of what the person could become. A young woman once stayed in a relationship for years, hoping the man she loved would eventually change. She ignored disrespect, inconsistency, emotional manipulation. Not because she was weak, but because she loved deeply. And sometimes deep love makes people tolerate pain longer than they should. But eventually she realized something heartbreaking. She was in love with potential, not reality. And maybe that's something someone watching this video needs to hear. You cannot build your future on somebody's potential, especially when their actions repeatedly show you who they truly are. Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." That's wisdom. And sometimes God allows painful endings because He refuses to let your future be destroyed by emotional blindness. God sees what you cannot see. One of the hardest truths in life is realizing that God sees conversations you never heard, motives you never noticed, intentions hidden behind smiles. Humans judge externally, but God sees internally. And honestly, that should comfort you, because there are times when people look perfect outwardly, while secretly carrying intentions that would damage your peace. Think about Lot's wife. She physically left Sodom, but emotionally she was still attached to it. And that attachment destroyed her. Sometimes God removes people because they are emotionally connected to environments, habits, and mindsets that would eventually destroy you too. Abraham and Lot eventually separated. Why? Because not every relationship can continue into every season. Even good people can become distractions from your assignment. And maybe you've experienced this. A friendship that slowly started draining you. A relationship that constantly pulled you away from peace. A connection that left you emotionally exhausted. But because you loved the person, you ignored the warning signs until one day everything collapsed. And maybe now you're angry at God, confused, wondering why He allowed the separation. But what if years from now you realize the heartbreak actually saved your future? Because sometimes rejection is protection disguised as pain. Heartbreak often reveals identity problems. Heartbreak exposes things we usually hide from ourselves: attachment, fear of loneliness, emotional dependency. Sometimes people don't just lose relationships, they lose themselves inside those relationships.